Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nick Hovenick. I am a SE with Recorded Future. Today, I'd like to thank everyone for joining. And today we're going to talk about advanced threat hunting within Recorded Future. If there are any questions, please put your questions in the chat window, and I will get to them at the end of the session. So today, what you guys are looking at here is our Recorded Future UI. There are many functions that you can do within our platform. If you think of threat intelligence as a crawl, walk, run, those three stages, this webinar will fall more in the fast walk to a run stage. So these are usually for people who do a lot of threat hunting, these particular use cases. So if we look here, what you're seeing is our threat views. These are our global trends to give you like a high-level situational awareness of what is going on across all of our different sources that we bring into the product. We bring in close to about 1 million different sources. So this is what we see trending across all of them. We have a number of ones that are built into the product. As you can see here on the right, we have ones that affect different industries. So ransomware is typically more tied to healthcare organizations. There's banking and payments, merchants and POS systems, etc. And all of these are pre-populated in our systems. And you can also make these very customizable to your own company. By doing threat views that are based off of what we call watch lists. So they can be very specific to your industry that you are in, your own infrastructure, your own tech stack, your own brand names, everything like that. So these are very customizable. And they can be very helpful to get an idea of what is going on in the world today. So today's webinar is about the advanced threat hunting. So the first one that we're going to talk about is identifying attacks with specific behaviors. So one of our capabilities within our tool is to conduct advanced queries. And I have an advanced query already created here in this tab. And as you can see here, by just clicking our advanced button, we have a drop down. And this will allow me to create those queries to be very specific to what I want. And these queries can be they can tie into a lot of different things. They can, very similarly to the threat views, they can look for specific mentions of brand names, specific products, specific vulnerabilities, ransomware or malware, etc. This particular one we're looking at here is we are looking at anything that's involving the EAX, which is a term in assembly language for the accumulated register. And we're looking for anybody talking about it with any exploit target, or the word for anything around exploits. We can set our event time. We can go back over 8 years worth of data, but for this particular one, we're only looking for 7 months worth of data. And then we can also specify our sources. So we are looking at right now for code repos and dark web. If we wanted to expand that, we could always do that. And you can see here that we put all of our sources in various buckets that can be selected or excluded similarly down here. If I was interested in targeting very specific sources or specific people who may talk about these types of attacks, we can always specify that information here by just inputting their their Twitter handles or their usernames or something like that. So if I look here in the background, these are the results of what we got for this query. So we can start to take a look to see what type of information is out there. So if I was a threat hunter or a reverse engineer person and I want to start to understand what's going on in some different pieces of malware, I can always come out and start to take a look. And we can see here that on April 30th, we had some information that was put up on GitHub. And then one thing that we do have is that we have this information cached. And so even if this GitHub repo was taken down between April 30th and today, we still hold on to that information in perpetuity. And so you could go back and search through those things, like I said, for over 8 years worth of data. Now from here, if I start to scroll through and I can start to take some items that might be of interest to me, I can pick out some information here. So let's say ironlocker.exe. Let's say if I just knew that my company was hit with a piece of ironlocker ransomware, I could always click on this, and it will take me out to some additional references around that. So we can start to see what are the most recent references, anything that's popping up in social media, anything in PACE references, underground forum references, etc. If we just give this here a second to load up, that information will start to populate. So you can see our very top hit there was for the ironlocker ransomware. And so I can start to build from this. So we can see here, there's the GitHub one that we were looking at previously. So it looks like there's only 2 hits here from these for this particular source. And so if I wanted to, I can say, all right, I need to get more information about ironlocker. How do I do that? I can pop out and start to do a search. And you'll see we can go to our intelligence card for the ironlocker ransomware. Our intelligence cards cover 6 different areas. They cover malware, as you're looking at here, threat actors, IPs, domains, hashes, and vulnerabilities. And really what these intel cards are, they're essentially the baseball cards of intelligence. They provide as much information as we have on those topics. So if there's chatter on our various sources, we pull it in and we start to match it up to our different intel cards. If I scroll down, I can start to see, all right, this ironlocker ransomware, I can start to get some more information about it. So we can see here what domains have maybe been associated with it or discussed around it, what other pieces of malware, maybe some attack vectors, what's going on with this particular piece of malware. And then I can see here, I can start to gain some additional information around some recent references. So we can see here some stuff coming from Persian, from a Persian source, and we do auto-translate that information, so you could quickly start to read it and gain some insight on that. Here's some mentions from Twitter, and then we even have some stuff around here from Pastebin. And then, as I mentioned before, we do cache all this information. So if you wanted to, you can always click on that and it will jump out to that particular paste. So this particular one was put out in 2015. It may or may not still be out there. However, we still hold on to this information so you can go through it. If I wanted to, I can also start to go through and say, let's identify any sort of TTPs. So this particular advanced query that I did, I started to build it and I said, show me anything that's involving any vulnerability and any sort of POC, so proof of concept, or any sort of mentions around an exploit. And I took my event time to be the last 3 months. And I specified my sources here for dark web all, and then for all forums. I also decided to exclude some of these different sources around here because we do see that some of the sources are a little bit noisier than others. So if we want to remove those, just so we don't hit any of that information, we can always exclude that. And lastly, I forgot to mention, I looked for a very specific language of Russian. As you can see, we can specify that down to a number of different languages here through the UI. So if I go in the background here and I start to look through this stuff, I can see that here are some mentions around vulnerability chatter on the Russian dark web. We can see here's a particular source that does, once again, translate on the fly. If I wanted to hit the translate button, we could switch back and forth between Russian and English. And then from here, I could go to many different things. I could click on, let's say I needed to get some more information about this vulnerability. I could always click on this and jump out to our vulnerability intelligence card. Or I can start to do some filtering of some events over here. So here I went into the cyber category and I decided to go down and say, okay, let's see what types of malware are out there, so I could get a little bit of better idea of TTPs and what's going on. I could click on certain items if I'm only interested in Dark Comet. I can see here some mentions about Dark Comet exploit guide. I could go into Eternal Blue, etc. If I wanted to, I'll look at the double door piece of malware. And so from here, I can quickly click on this and jump out to the intelligence card for this piece of malware. And the one thing that we have on this Intel card, which was not on the other, was a mention from our INSICT group. These are our internal researchers who write up some narrative around some of these topics. Everything on these cards are updated on the fly. So as there is new information that's being populated about, in this matter, double door, we will update all of that information, with the exception of the threat research group. That it does take some time for some humans to write up some information on. It's usually pretty quick if we see items that are trending, but it's just to give you a little bit more narrative so that you can take to people and understand what the topic is. If I continue to scroll down here, this is structured very similarly. We can see the references of when people were talking about it, where they were talking about it, in the event that there was any cyber events involving this malware. And then here's our contact section here. So you can see a lot more information is posted here about what companies might be being associated with this piece of malware. This section here is not causal, it is correlated together. And if you wanted to see how they were pieced together, you can very quickly click on a topic and it will take you out to the mentions between the two. So if I click here on Skynet, which is a popular threat actor, we can see here the 3 most recent references involving double door malware and then this particular threat actor. And we can see how they've been discussed. And then if I wanted to, I could jump out to the intelligence card for this threat actor. So these are things that will help you gain some ideas about the TTPs, about who is using, what attacks people are using, who is actually behind using it, and maybe a little bit about how they are using it based off of the chatter that we see coming across our various sources. Now, if we wanted to, and we didn't go into, let's say that this is still a little bit too high level, and we wanted to go into very specific mentions of items that might be pertinent to us, we could start to take a look for, let's say, we've been tasked with finding information that has been leaked out across, whatever source that people are concerned about. We could start to do some searches for very specific items. So most companies have some sort of text within their documents or even within their source code that is very specific to them and them alone. Using our advanced query, we could do some very specific searching. So if I wanted to search for, we have here internal use only, or the highly restricted, or not for redistribution, etc. I could come in here and specify all this information. If I wanted to combine it, I could quickly click the or, and it will switch to an and. So I can always do that if I want to chain items together. And I can always change this to be a little bit more specific if I wanted to. So let's say I work for Acme Bank, and I wanted to say Acme Bank internal use only. I can add that information on there to start to look for that very specific text string. So if something gets posted, pasted on a site that we monitor, and it's very specific to a customer, you can always do some searching based off of that, and then create alerts off of that as well. So the alerts would fire. Let's say that this was a particular query that I wanted. I would set up my own alert on this, and I could say, show me everything that came in my query that I specified. And I want to get if you set this up, you would get an email alert as soon as it is picked up on a source that we monitor, as well as you would also get a daily recap email, weekly, or whatever cadence that you would want to see fit. So you could get kind of a bulk enrichment of everything. And you can also feed these alerts to different ticketing systems. So we do have integration into our various ticketing systems that can be automated and create tickets automatically, so that people can quickly respond to the stuff in the tools that they are most used to using. As always, we do cache this information as well, as I mentioned earlier. And so you can start to see you get a various number of hits because we are being very generic in our webinar, just because we have a large number of folks who have joined from various companies, and we certainly don't want to air out anything that is very specific to individual customers. But you can see here that some of the stuff that we pick up, it can be interesting. So this looks like it is something was for firmware internal use only. This was put up on GitHub. This could quite possibly be a piece of firmware that has leaked prior to distribution from a particular company. This type of information is very helpful if you are trying to, if you don't have a full measure of data loss prevention in the works where it's actually doing prevention. This will show you information if it's posted up to any of our, like I mentioned before, any of our close to 1 million different sources. If that information is posted on those sources, we can surface it, alert on it, and we can allow you to take the correct measures, kicking off your internal incident response plan or something of the like. So those are a little bit about how we can do some advanced threat hunting. Like I said, if you are in the market of a malware researcher and you want to get a better idea about what people are using and how they are using it, and maybe some TTPs that are associated with particular threat actors, you can certainly use Recorded Future to surface all that type of information. Or additionally, if you want to just be able to monitor for any information leakage from your enterprise, you can always set up some very quick advanced queries to do that type of monitoring. Also, Recorded Future has an excellent customer success team called our intelligence services team. So if any of these types of queries, if you want to customize them and they're a little bit maybe out of your understanding, our intelligence services team will go above and beyond to make sure that they create and help you fine-tune the queries so they are actionable and pertinent to your specific enterprise. All right, so that was our quick overview about that information. So one of the questions that popped up was, can you put this information into existing solutions like a SIM? So we do have integrations into SIMs, Splunk, QRadar, ArcSight, Logarithm, McAfee. We do have those integrations, but we usually what we're doing around that information is enriching IOCs. So the information that could be fed in there is information around IPs, domains, hashes, and vulnerabilities. And that will surface information that was posted on those intelligence cards. So we can feed that information into the SIMs. There is a method to do all of these advanced query methods that we can certainly put in there, but that will require some work from our professional services team, which helps facilitate those integrations. So depending on what the request is and the details of it, it is a possibility, but it is not out of the box. If there are any other questions, please submit them now. I will just give everyone another second or two. Okay, so I appreciate everyone joining today. This was a quick 20-minute webinar about some of the capabilities of Recorded Future. If you are interested in getting a specific demo and access, please let us know, and we will have somebody from our account management team follow up. I appreciate everyone's time and hope you have a good rest of the day. Thank you.